Hey guys, I'm Dylan, if you didn't already know that, and I go by Outhouse Cartoons on most of the things. And I'm also the creator of Combat Fairies, which is a graphic novel trilogy. It's an urban fantasy action and adventure story with a punk aesthetic and a sassy, snarky sense of humor. It's wild, it's fun, and it's got a little bit of something to say about a few different things. And the last volume of that trilogy is coming to Kickstarter on July 30th. And in honor of that, I'm here to draw one of the fairies, one of the five combat fairies. And we're going to do Cinnia today. And if you're interested, check the description, the link in the description, and you can check out the pre-launch page if you're watching this before the 30th. And if you're watching it after, you can just go right to the actual page and see all the stuff that is up for grabs there as backer rewards. There's prints, there's comics, both digital and physical. They're big, thick, hardy graphic novels. And there's also art commissions and even art lessons. So we'll do kind of what I'm doing here, but we'll do it digitally over Zoom and a little bit slower. I'll talk you through drawing a whole character if you want. But yeah, today we're doing Cinnia, so let's draw Cinnia. We're going to start with the structure and the anatomy and stuff. Always start with that kind of construction shapes. Sometimes people want to skip that, and it almost never works out for them. You can almost always immediately spot anatomical issues. Even when we're doing cartoony, exaggerated characters like the fairies here, all their stuff needs to fit together in a way that kind of makes sense, even if it's not 100% like a real person's anatomy. So we got our S-curved line of action there. We're not doing anything too wild pose-wise. Here's our rib cage. And we got our shoulders here. And we're gonna tilt the hips at the opposite angle of the shoulders. Try to avoid parallel hips and shoulders. Most people, unless they're like an Imperial Guard or something, tend not to hold their themselves quite so rigidly. You might be watching these videos in any possible order, but this is actually the fifth one of these that I've recorded. So this is the last one that I'm recording here, and in all the other ones we put the fairies, we always had like one knee tucked up. I said I would do at least one where that wasn't the case, and this is going to be that one, I think. Well, it's going to have to be, I guess. Unless I lie and just don't do it at all. Put her hand almost like she's ready to grab her sword if she needs to. And I'm going to put this arm up almost like maybe like she just saluted or something. Something like that. That kind of works. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so we're going to put in the details here. Cinnia is actually the youngest fairy on the team. And she's actually supposed to be of Japanese descent. She wears this beret. And there's this big schwack of hair. Give her the smirk. She's got pointy, almost Batman-y kind of ears as well, but with the studs on them, but then double hoop earrings down here on the earlobes. There you go. Now, if I had to put, like, gun to my head, if I had to say which fairy is the easiest one to draw, I might actually say Cinnia. I think at least from during the initial pencil phase anyway, she's the easiest one. But when we ink her hair, that's going to be a bit of a process. She definitely is probably the simplest outfit as well. I mean, she'd be the easiest one to cosplay, put it that way. She's got a tattoo on her thigh there. And a shoulder holster. And she actually keeps her sword on a thigh sheath here. And the sword just kind of expands as it's convenient. There we go. Okay, she's got a couple. Sometimes to remind myself of which fairy's got what jewelry. The rings I almost always mess up. The other ones I generally know, but I sometimes double check anyway. So yeah, so she's got a ring on her forefinger and one on her pinky, which we won't really be able to see here. So Cinnia's got 6 wings. And what makes her wings a little bit more unique than her teammates is she's got tattoos on her wings. Slightly bigger. And these are meant to be sort of like almost like a tribal tattoo, I guess, but like probably with some actual significant fairy meaning, and I'm not going to pretend like I gave it too much thought beyond that. I thought of a lot of lore in this series, but didn't feel the need to explain every tattoo. Alright, we're almost done here. Except, of course, for this giant mess of hair. That she needs, or she just ain't Cinnia. Like that. Okay. Well, it's time to ink, guys. So let's do that. So I usually start by inking things that are in the front and work my way back. Part of that is personal preference. Maybe even some sort of mild OCD, although I don't think I have OCD. Some of it is so that I make sure that if something is meant to be covering something else, I don't miss that, because I'll often draw the entire shape just to understand how it all works together. But a piece of clothing or a piece of hair or something is going to hide some of that in the end. So inking what's in front, make sure that that is made very clear to me before I ink something that we shouldn't actually be seeing anymore. There we go. Find drawing long hair to be kind of cathartic and fun. And you can, in a comic book, you can use that to kind of frame your scenes. But when you go to ink them, sometimes you regret them. inked her upper lip pure black. Her lips are purple, which is obviously kind of a darkish color. And with the way that our upper lip slants, our upper lip tends to be darker. It's shadowed slightly more. And obviously we're exaggerating here. It's a cartoon, it's a comic book. We're using black ink lines to define things that would typically be a bit more subtle in real life. But that's why we cartoon, right? So that shadow. Sorry, the chin casts a shadow there underneath. I don't really know what the logic is, if I'm being completely honest, of the whole bandaging kind of look of her outfit. It's inspired by a lot of kind of just like ninja looks and stuff like that. I think mostly they're wrapping up their arms and things, but it's a fairy. I concern myself with logic a lot more with the human characters than I did with the fairies. Those are human affairs, things like logic. And we don't need to bother with human affairs when we're dealing with fairies. When you're doing loose pieces of fabric and sometimes hair as well, the biggest piece of advice I can give is S-curves. Try to make almost all of your lines S-curves. do her straps here for her thigh sheath or thigh holster. She keeps her thumb on, or thumb, sorry, or get distracted by that noise over there, sorry about that. I'm not live, so I wasn't expecting to get notifications like that. But anyway, she's got the double straps around her thigh that holds her sword in place, which looks like a dagger until she unsheaths it. Use almost like cartoon logic, kind of fitting these large things in these small compartments. But it's all kind of explained away by magic, you know. It's the fun of cartoon logic with some mild explanation. The extra lines across there shows they're clips. Her stuff's a little slightly more high-tech looking. Intent being that she's a little younger, playing with some newer toys maybe. Although in the grand scheme of things, considering how old these fairies are supposed to be, not a huge age difference. When I'm inking the limbs, or like many other things, I'll make like one edge usually, the one that's furthest away from the light source, just slightly thicker. Implies that's where there's some shadow, and also says something about the thickness of the surface. Yeah, it's a big meaty leg after all. And there's her sword. Ready to go. And let's get her shoulder holster here. Already got the straps, but now we gotta add the actual holster itself, which also has a little tiny pouch on the inside of it. It's gonna do the inside black. Her gun is black, so probably would get hidden in the shadow pretty easily there. A little hint of an armpit. Now let's do this hand. Hands and feet, I know, are a pain in the ass, guys. I'm doing these videos reasonably quick here, just for the sake of like entertainment value. So you might find it a little difficult to just completely follow along if you're not an experienced drawer already when it comes to these kind of details like the hands and stuff. If there's interest, though, in seeing other more pointed tutorials, sound off in the chat, let me know. Maybe at some point I'll be able to do that for you. But if you back the Kickstarter and choose the one-on-one drawing lessons, then I can help you with that a little bit more directly. Because we'll do that kind of stuff a lot slower than what I'm doing here today. So remember, that series is Combat Fairies. Check the link in the description. You can find out more about the series and some of the cool stuff that you can get on the Kickstarter. The bracelets are casting a slight shadow on her arm there. There we go. Just got one limb left. And she's almost a complete... Oops, forgot her her other earrings here. Almost a complete humanoid. She's going to use those wings before we can really call her a fairy, though, I think. There we go. Now we just gotta do her wings. Now most of the fairies have like kind of veiny wings, very insecty kind of fly wings. And in theory, Cinnia's wings are the same, but she's tattooed them. So with that in mind, I don't bother with the veins because I don't want to distract from the tattoos, which is something we can do in any kind of illustration. We can kind of cheat to make things look the best, even if it's not entirely realistic every single time. I'm going to fill the tattoos in with a thicker pen in a little bit. If I filled in the really thin areas, that'll be hard to do with that. There's one wing. There is another wing. And another wing. 3 down, 3 to go. Oh, wait. I done messed up a little bit there, guys. We're gonna adjust. It's a bit of a cheat, but we're gonna kind of somewhat looks on purpose. I started inking one of my original pencil lines before I decided that I wanted to make that wing slightly bigger. All right, gotta bespeckle it a little bit. All wings are a little bespeckled, at least in this universe. All right, wing number 5. And wing number 6. The wing we've all been waiting for. Alright, now we still have her hair. So we're almost done, but this hair, it might take a little bit. Because she's got a lot of it. So up here, we're not going to be too picky. We're just going to carefully, mind you, put in all of these lines. But as we get lower into the bigger parts over here that are a bit more visible, I'll start getting a little bit more particular. We'll get some highlights and stuff going. We'll imply a little bit of a highlight here, but we'll get a bit bolder with it later. So the highlight, at least for hair like this anyway, we add black lines to imply the strands and like kind of the texture of this long straight hair, but then we leave some white areas where the lines don't connect. And that's what implies a bit of highlight. So we're getting a little bit of it here by not connecting those lines. But we're going to get a lot more of it soon. We'll fill this area in its entirety. And now even just drawing this curve here is going to be a little intimidating. Almost feels like my head is vibrating a little bit when I have to do these big smooth curves. I'm stressing about messing it up. There we go. And another one. And another one. And another one. And another one. Alright, we're gonna flip this around as I do this last bit. We gotta stretch. Maybe meditate for a minute. Maybe nice and smooth. Sometimes I'll find spreading them out like through the middle first. Then do like half that way, half the other way. And then work your way in. It helps you to keep it a little bit more even. But it's still a bit easier said than done. Oops. Almost messed that up a little bit. No, it is a little fucky, but hopefully that won't be noticeable once we add the rest. Okay. You can, of course, like stop a line and pick it back up if you need to, but sometimes it's easier if you're able to keep it really smooth. Or, well, maybe not easier, but it might look a little smoother. A little bit, anyway. Oop. Oop. Sometimes if you mess up, that is what is going to inspire you to do a higher concentration of lines in a certain area. Because the more lines there are in the hair, the less you're going to notice if one of them is a little wobbly. We're getting there. One of those design features that I started to regret after a while of working on this comic book. In the case of what I'm doing here, it's not so much the length of the lines, it's just that curve, just maintaining that curve smoothly enough. It's intimidating. It's almost stressful sometimes. It's also, of course, like sometimes it's almost like sometimes the faster you go, the easier it is. Sometimes the slower you go, the easier it is. But I think with a curve like this, you have to go slow, and that makes your line a little bit more prone to being wobbly. Almost. Almost. Now, in theory, of course, the wider the shape of the hair gets, theoretically, the thinner it should be getting because it's fanning out. That's what's making it wider. So more light would be coming through it, so maybe it wouldn't need to be quite as dark. So there is justification for having less line work as it kind of fans out, but again, we're exaggerating, we're cartooning. Sometimes we don't necessarily want what looks the realist. Alright, I think this is the last one. Alright, let's fill in a couple of these. Alright, now we've got some spot blacks. And then we can call it a day. So we gotta fill in tattoos on her wings. And the tattoos on her leg. And then I think that might actually be it. I think we got it, guys. I think that's done. So there is Cinnia, one of our 5 combat fairies from the Combat Fairies trilogy. So remember to check that that link in the description. Check out the Kickstarter, see if there's anything of interest to you, as well as the book itself, of course. And also, if you do me a favor, when you see posts like this or other posts, hit the like button, hit the share button, add a comment, whatever it might be. Not everybody can back, but everybody can hit that like button, and that helps the algorithm. It boosts it so that the algorithms think that there's people like this, so let's give them more of this, and it'll help just help more people see the campaign, so we can find its audience a little bit easier. So thanks, guys. I'll catch you next time.